Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Cinema Wave podcast here at the Culture Wave Media Network. It's been a minute. We haven't recorded in quite a little while. I was in Toronto for the Toronto International Film Festival. Got a lot of content upcoming for you guys with that, with reviews and recaps and things like that. But I am here today to discuss episodes 3 and 4 of season 2 of HBO Max's Peacemaker, and I am joined this time by my buddy Vinny Albano.
Hello, hello.
And we're, again, obviously behind a little bit, but this episode will be dropping before episode 5 comes out, which is that whole back half of the season that has been highly anticipated by James Gunn, and they didn't give it to press, and there's a lot that is going to be upcoming that we're going to be figuring out along the way. But going backwards, we're going to jump to, we'll go through episode 3 pretty quickly because it's been a couple weeks now, but overall, Vinny, do you remember a lot of episode 3 and what were some standout things for you? I know, like, obviously we get the return of Rick Flag Jr., Joel Kinnaman's character, which was a big thing in this, and then we kind of get the first glimpse inside that different dimension that Chris is so happy to be a part of, where Keith is and where Agee is, and he has this different relationship with Harcourt. So how did you feel about that third episode?
Yeah, I feel like episode 3 is my favorite episode so far of the season, honestly. I'm not that episode 4 is bad. I'm actually surprised for how low the IMDb score is compared to the other episodes, but episode 3 is by far my favorite. The epic action sequence towards the later half is incredible. I love seeing, not only character-wise, but plot-wise, the significance of how happy and how quote good this mirror universe is in Chris's eyes. And what's going on behind the scenes. The Rick Flag joke was very humorous, and I thought this episode honestly landed on and checked off all my boxes. I really love that action sequence towards the end. Not only does it display Chris's character very well in this mirror universe and how much he just kind of fits in, but also I genuinely think it was one of the best action sequences we've gotten from the series so far. It was really cool, very well directed, very well filmed. It's bloody, it's gory, it's awesome.
Yeah, I agree. And the director of episode 3 is actually Greg Mottola, who had directed Superbad, and is best known for doing more comedy. He hasn't done a lot of action, if any at all. But he's friends with James Gunn, and I agree. I think episode 3 up to this point is probably my favorite episode as well. I like getting a glimpse into what life was like for Harcourt before the events of season 1 of Peacemaker. We get a little bit, and it's not a lot, but we get enough of an understanding that she has this really close relationship with Rick Flag Jr. Obviously, they're sleeping together, but also she claims like it's her only friend. Yeah. So we have this, and you get this sense of her character just in general that she's happier in her own life. Like she seems more even keeled. She's not somebody that is just living this life. And it also that's through violence and things, but it also gives you the context now, like a recontextualization of season 1 of Peacemaker and why she was kind of on the hunt for Chris in the beginning, and what that meant to her, because it had a deeper meaning for her that he had killed Rick Flag Jr. in James Gunn's The Suicide Squad. But I agree. The stuff with the mirror dimension, we finally start to kind of peel back the layers of it. We see this interaction between David Denman, Keith, and Chris again, and him trying to understand, him trying to understand himself more within this universe and what that version of Chris Smith looks like in that world compared to himself.
Yeah.
One of the things that I had noticed, I'm curious if you had seen this, because some people online were speculating this as well, that not everything in this world though is as to be normal. You know what I mean? Like there are moments where Chris is saying these normal turn of phrase and Harcourt doesn't fully understand it. The one thing is obviously like him just calling her Harcourt, and she's like, all right, Smith. Like that was a weird interaction between the two of them. Even the moment where like Chris mentions the Kardashians and Keith is like, who are the Kardashians? So there's these aspects of things not existing in this parallel universe compared to what we know as like, I guess it's Earth 1 or whatever it might be characterized as.
Yeah.
So have you picked up on any of that, and did that seem interesting to you or fishy to you going forward on what we can learn more about this different dimension that Chris is in now?
Yeah, 100%. You know, because then it goes as far as I always think of Chainsaw Man. You know, as a Chainsaw Man fan, and I'm not going to get into spoilers, but the world of Chainsaw Man it takes place in the real world, but there's some information that's revealed that certain things don't exist anymore. And you know, right now it's little like the Kardashians, but who's to say that, you know, entire countries don't exist in this world?
Mm-hmm.
And who's to say that something like an atom bomb doesn't exist in this world, but will then come to play all of a sudden in the plot? So I think that's definitely a seed for something a lot bigger in the next 4 episodes to come.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I hope they play into that, because I've seen other series like Chainsaw Man play into that, where, you know, something is missing, and then you have Chris, who comes from a different world where it does exist, and he realized the consequences that this thing has when it does exist.
Yeah.
You get what I'm throwing down?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And we do see it through comedy in this episode as well, where we see kind of Chris riding on the peace cycle.
Yeah.
We see women flashing him on the street, people cheering for him, kids crying, just being in his presence and things like that. We also get this side of Rick Flag that we're not accustomed to seeing. He's kind of dorky, and he's like way gentler, and Harcourt obviously is entirely different. Like, which shout out to Jen Holland, because I think she does such a great job in this episode in particular of showing a different side of it. I mean, it is an entirely different Harcourt, but we're getting some range. You know what I mean? Like, we're seeing something different from her as an actress that I like to see more than just the action and the physicality, which obviously she has covered. And like you said, the action set pieces are a big part of this episode. And by the end of it, we also get the debut of Michael Rooker's character, and we get the return of Judo Master, which I know we see him in the trailer, but it's just like, how is this dude back? You know what I mean? Like, how are we dealing with this character? How did you feel about getting the return of his character?
Judo Master's fine. I honestly thought the gag was gonna end in season 1, but I think there's still more to do with him. So, you know, I'm neutral about it. And what we see in episode 4 is pretty fun. I just hope that the gag doesn't go on for too long. I hope like something actually becomes of his character, and it's not just like another like, oh, silly Judo Master, you're defeated now, let's forget about you, right?
Yeah.
Michael Rooker's character is funny. Again, like, and I feel like this is kind of the flaw of this series, and I know we talked off camera about the biggest flaw we had with episode 4, but the humor is funny, but sometimes it can just go on, and gags can become very repetitive and very quickly become stale. So yeah, that's how I feel about Michael Rooker's character too. But we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. There's not a lot more to talk about in episode 3. I don't think. Again, it's a very action heavy episode, but we do get those sort of elements that become a big part of it. But episode 4, I agree with you. I don't think. I mean, it still has a decent score. It's at a 7.7 as of right now on IMDb, but it is the lowest rated episode of this season thus far. I don't know if it's of the series, but I like this very intriguing intro we get to this episode, where it's a flashback and we see Agee and his 2 kids, and they're hunting, and what you think initially is him shooting a deer is actually an alien species. What was your reaction to that? What were you like? Was your mind going like mine? Like, what the hell is going on right now?
Exactly. I really love this opening. I think it's so weird, but it's so perfect, and it also explains of the big plot hole that we had with the White Dragon, of how, like, okay, how is this hillbilly redneck a have the ability to have like a multi-dimensional pocket dimension.
Yeah.
So that is a clever way of explaining it, and it's very comic booky to the point of like just coincidence, but that's just how it works out sometimes. It's how it works out in real life. That's how it works out in comic books. So I really liked it. I love the tone of that opening, and I think consistently what I love about Peacemaker is how tonally every opening is very dark, and then we go right into the like goofy intro.
Yeah.
So, but I think it works. And I think it works here too.
I also think, because I think I agree with you. I don't know if I'd have to go back and rewatch season 1, which you had rewatched it recently, or you watched it for the first time recently, right?
I watched it for the first time.
Yeah. So correct me if I'm wrong, but was it in season 1 that there were more goofy intros, like it was more lighthearted intros into the title sequence, or was that not always the case? Because for me, I do agree.
Yeah.
The title sequence obviously is goofy. You have all these characters, serious characters doing this dance. But the big thing with season 1 that people pointed out is that like that intro actually had a lot of meaning, like hidden meaning to what the season kind of embodied in general. This is a slower intro title sequence. There is a more serious there are more serious lyrics. It's more of like a melodic dance, like, so that's part of it too that makes me think like this is a darker season for Chris and in general. Do you feel that as well?
100%. I specifically think of episode 3 had the Rick Flag intro too, right? Where it's Harcourt sleeping with Rick Flag.
Yeah.
And then boom, we have a montage going right into its gruesome killing.
Yeah.
From the Suicide Squad. So it's 100% a lot darker opening by opening. I think it's just progressively getting darker. I'm very curious what this week's episode is going to open up on. Or, where we even go from here. Which I think, as episode 4, although I don't think it's as strong as episode 3, we're now at a great midpoint where the hell do we go?
Yeah.
Which I love. That's you're not supposed to know. It's supposed to be unpredictable. So I'm very excited for this week.
Yeah, I agree. My biggest thing with this, and you touched upon it a little bit, with this season in particular, is that I feel like the dialogue is getting to points of being overdone. I think their humor, like there's a part in particular, in this with Economos and Judo Master that just goes on for too long.
Yeah.
And even some bits like Michael Rooker's character eating the eagle shit, like it's funny, but it's also like, all right, like let's move on now. Like we're stalling the action.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And I think that can be James Gunn's vice sometimes. It can wind up hurting elements of that, and it takes me back to, not to dwell on like, and again, I love Superman, but like my least favorite part of Superman is the fact that like we're about to have a Lex Luthor retaliation, and then Crypto comes in out of nowhere and is like halting that with like something that's supposed to be funny. And I hope that as we move along, because again, Chris Smith as a character is humorous, but I don't love sometimes how James Gunn is always like, let's give every single character a joke. Let's make every single character be humorous in this world, because that's not everybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, you put it in a way that is perfectly put, and I'm not going to like re-explain, because that's exactly the scene I was thinking of like, it feels like obviously in comedy you want room for improvising. You want actors to improvise. And then sometimes improvising can just go on for too long. It's like, okay, like, oh, you did that? Yeah, I did that. Oh, right. And you put it perfectly. Like, he needs to cut it or just not have it in at all.
Yeah.
Right. And I also like how you brought up like the character point of like, not every, like, it is a comedy series at the end of the day, but we're also dealing with really traumatic themes and really dark stuff. So why does every character have to be like a joke? I love Vigilante, and Peacemaker is goofy on the surface, but but like even like Judo Master is a joke, Vigilante is a joke, Birdmaster guy, right? Michael Rooker's character. He's a joke. So it's like every character being introduced is a joke. And at that point, it's like, can we have something really cool and, not necessarily edgy, but like, you get what I'm saying? Yeah. So I agree with you.
The only character that I feel like hasn't been given a joke this whole entire season, well, two characters, I guess, is Harcourt, because of how serious all her stuff is, and Rick Flag Sr., which I do want to see more from him too. I did like the scene that we get in this episode where we get the context and the connection to the DCU as well about his injury that he suffers at the end of Creature Commandos, and connecting the dots with how he's aware of Harcourt and what purpose she served in Rick's Jr.'s life. So I did like that, and I like how he kind of is leveraging obviously her own tortured kind of mind now of being blacklisted or blackballed or however he says it in the show, from every single intelligence agency that she has nowhere to go. And he's like, well, this is why I came to talk to you, because there is a way back in. You just got to get us Chris. And that sets up the meeting in the park that doesn't wind up happening, or we're not sure if it's going to happen, as we see by the end of the episode. But one of the other things I wanted to now I'm going to give credit to Screen Crush, because they were the first ones to point this out. We talked a little bit about last episode where things are not how they seem in this new world. In this episode, a lot of the time that Chris is spending with somebody in this episode is he's finally getting a moment with Adebayo, who's his best friend. And she's understanding and learning of all these things now that are happening. The quantum unfolding chamber and the little suitcase that looks like Peacemaker's helmet that they get from the alien that is able to kind of formulate this quantum unfolding chamber anywhere they want. And one of the things Screen Crush had said is they were like, it's very interesting how in this parallel dimension there's nobody that's not a white person.
Oh,
now, have you picked up on that at all? And my whole thought process was, we get that moment in the car where Chris is talking about how Agee is alive in this world and he's his best friend, and Adebayo's like, we had to snap you out of that shit, because at the end of season 1, that last image is that he still is living with like what you think is like the ghost of Agee, right? Essentially, like the ghost of killing his father is always going to be lurking. And then he's like, but Keith is also there, and it made me think too, because Scream Crush had been saying this after episode 3, but in episode 4 I'm like, it's interesting. Like, Adebayo hasn't asked if there's a version of her there, and we haven't seen anybody of color in this world. So you're, I guess, just learning of this because I'm bringing it up for the first time.
That's
so
crazy.
What are your thoughts on that potentially being something?
Yeah, and that makes sense, because obviously, like, in normal worlds, in Earth 1, like, the white dragon,
Augie's character,
he's a racist. He's more than a racist. He's a terrible human being that sides himself with the Klan and is a neo-Nazi.
Yeah.
So that makes sense, because if this is like a reality that's a lot darker than it is on the surface, then he wouldn't necessarily like display that racism outward, because if it's just like a white superiority,
he's living in like a utopia.
Then so that's really interesting. For me, what I was questioning was in episode 3, and they don't even like pay much mind to it, but the quote bad guys that Peacemaker takes down, this rebellion terrorist group of some sort. My question was like, why? What? Like, there has to be more than just, they were just some bad guys. Right? Like, I was questioning the whole time. I'm like, okay, they have access. They seem pretty street level people. There has to be, and they're a group. There has to be a bigger motive there. Why do they exist as a group, and why do they have so much resources like a helicopter?
Yeah.
What is this, and what is more to this world? If it seems so utopian on the surface, they're still bad guys, right? So, or quote bad guys. So I'm curious if these are like rebellion type people, rebelling against whatever government is in place on Earth too. So yeah, that's a really interesting point.
Yeah, and I'm curious to see where we end up, like you said, in these last 4 episodes. I'm excited to watch episode 5 on Thursday. We're recording this the day before on Wednesday as of right now. Because like I said, James Gunn was holding these final 4 episodes from the press for a long time, and a lot of this, he says, serves as a follow-up to Superman, and now we already know that the next film is going to be Man of Tomorrow. That kind of falls in line with this through line of the DCU that he's crafting. And so there's a lot of questions that need to be answered. It'd be very interesting if even like some of the things they haven't dug into is like they've kind of left breadcrumbs and little things where like Keith is saying to him, like, you're not on anything else other than drinking again, right? And it's like, was Chris self-medicating because he couldn't handle the fact that his family was racists, and so that was his way of coping, and maybe him becoming a drug addict led to Harcourt leaving him, and maybe Harcourt's also a racist. Like, there's all these things that there's the potential that can kind of flip it on its head and get us in an entirely different direction.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
And something I also noticed that might play into, maybe I'm looking too deep into this, but it definitely is intentional, so maybe I'm not. Something I did notice from the very first episode, right, where we see Earth 2 Harcourt dancing in the intro sequence, and even just Harcourt just specifically, the way she's dressed, right? In Earth 1, Harcourt is, she dresses more casual. She dresses more, not necessarily masculine, but we see her typically in a tank top and jeans, right? Yeah. So, but in this, she's dressed in this very, like, southern, like, always has this long dress on, this long, like, skirt on, and, like, a decorated blouse of sorts. Yeah. A lot more what you would see, or what I would assume usually to see, like, when you're watching, like, a southern movie. I've never been to the South, but, like, typically the women in, like, these southern movies are dressed very, like, traditionally feminine. Yeah. And, quote, modest. And that's what we're seeing Harcourt dress, which seems out of character for her. So maybe that's just her in Earth 2, but maybe there might be another through line to this, Yeah. Yeah.
I also think, and I know you've watched Creature Commandos. I have only watched a few episodes, but people have been speculating online as well, like, if a lot of people in this world are neo-Nazis or the modern definition of what people point to as people that are just obviously obligatory to anyone other than themselves.
Yeah.
That the Creature Commandos, we know that they're going to be coming to live action at some point, and it's already been said, James Gunn is like, yeah, these characters, whoever voices them in the animated series, like, I mean, we know that Frank Grillo is voicing Rick Flag Sr., who's the lead in Creature Commandos.
Yeah.
And he's also playing the character in live action in the DCU. G.I. Robot is a Nazi hunting robot. And correct me, G.I. Robot's still alive at the end of Creature Commandos.
It was kind of ambiguous. Okay. Because he gets destroyed, but he's a robot.
And so James Gunn has said also in interviews that he goes, in my world, I like to say the characters, if they're dead, unless they're a robot.
Yeah.
Which is ironic. So it's like, do we see that? Maybe, like, like, maybe is Chris gonna finally, like, he's gonna think he's gonna settle into this world. He's gonna be beaten down and destroyed in both worlds, and then the Creature Commandos are gonna come and save him. That could be something that I could see happening. Whether it's, again, like, you hear Alan Tudyk voicing G.I. Robot, or we have maybe Frankenstein coming in, or whoever. But I do think that there has to, like, it all, like, Gunn is very smart with the way he says certain things, right? And when he gives things away, And he was always very particular in being like, well, the Creature Commandos technically is the first project of the DCU. And it has a through line. I mean, obviously he's talking about the fact that his back was broken, which happens in Creature Commandos. And he's talking about it openly with Harcourt now in Peacemaker Season 2. So there's a lot that we're going to have that we're going to find out about. We're really excited, I'm sure, to talk about it. We're going to be recording episode 5 on Sunday, I believe. Hopefully we'll have it out for you guys on Monday as of this recording. But yeah, man, there's a lot to speculate on. And like I agree with you. I think we're at a really good halfway point of this season. I'm not sure if I like it as much as season 1 thus far. I just love season 1 so much. But I think as we start to see things unfold, I'm going to wind up enjoying it even more because of the through line and where we're going to end up. So, are there any characters that you think that we might wind up seeing in the last 4 episodes?
I didn't think about Creature Commandos, but I loved Creature Commandos, so I'd love to see all of them or someone. The Bride. Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't think we're gonna get a Superman. We might see Green Lantern again. I feel like we might see Guy Gardner, but yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, we'll see.
Or we might see another Green Lantern going into Lanterns, since that's another HBO Max television show.
That's true.
Yeah.
We could see a Hal Jordan or a Jon Stewart appearance. That'd be crazy. That'd be wild. There's a lot. I mean, we already have a lot of characters established in this world. They're establishing more through the castings and things, and it's full speed ahead with the DCU. Clayface is filming. Lanterns is supposed to be coming out in early 2026.
Yeah.
Man of Tomorrow was announced, so we're excited to look forward to all that stuff as well with you guys. But let us know what you guys think in the comments about episodes 3 and 4 of Peacemaker Season 2. Hope you guys enjoyed our talk on it, and join us every week. We're going to be doing all of these recaps and things like that going forward for the rest of the season. Hopefully we'll have Sean on for the next one, and hopefully Mikey will come on by the end of the series. But Vinny and I are holding it down right now, enjoying the series so far, and we hope you guys are enjoying as well. You guys can also follow us on social media if you don't already. All that stuff is below me in the video. It's also in our YouTube description. Give this video a like. Subscribe to us here at the Culture Wave Media Network. Just signing off, I'm Darian Scalamoni.
And I'm Vinny Albano.
And we'll see you guys next time.
This is The Culture.